Hello, today we'll be assembling and getting ready and installing the OS on the Gigabyte R180-F34 that I gave you a tour of in the last video. Going to be my new personal server. So just real quick, let's go through the hardware we have. I have a Quadro P400. Not much of a card, but you know, in today's climate, you take what you can get. I've had this one for a while. It's not fantastic, but for real-time video transcode work, it actually works really well. I have 8 16 gig sticks of DDR4 2400 RDIMMs for a total of 128 gigabytes. I have 2 E5 2695 V4s. These are 18 core, 36 thread CPUs with a base clock at 2.1 gigahertz and a boost clock at 3.3. So in the grand total, we'll have 36 cores and 72 threads to play with this system. I will also be installing a 256 gig NVMe drive to act as Scratch. This server is going to be kind of a hybrid build / production container system for me, which is why we're going to have the NVMe drive. Don't need a lot, just need a lot of I/O for building and starting up and shutting down those containers. I also have a 250 gig MX500 drive for boot. I think that's everything, so actually, let's start building. Let's get these CPUs installed. We will take off the air shrouds and just set them aside, and then we're going to take off the heat sinks. When I take off a heat sink, I like to loosen all 4 corners and then take it the rest of the way off. I do this so that I do it like this because most of these heat sinks these days have these springs in them, and so I don't like it when it tilts when you take one all the way out and it pushes down in the socket weird with all these LGA with these new giant sockets. Let's get this other heat sink off. And these are beautiful solid copper heat sinks. They're actually really, really cool. And actually you can see some kind of a wick in there. I wonder what that's for. Either way, good heat sinks, solid copper. Let's get you in here close and we'll look at the LGA 2011 V-3 socket. So when you install a CPU in one of these sockets, you're going to, these sockets always kind of throw me for a loop. Oh, there we go. You're going to push down and pull in, push down, pull in, and then slide that open, and then we're going to open up the socket just like that. I haven't been in this guy yet, so let's take a look and see if we see any bit pins or anything weird. And actually, everything looks really good. If you've ever installed any Intel LGA CPU, it's fairly simple, even with these big 2011 CPUs. Or not simple, it's fairly similar to you know, your average 1150, 1151, 1155, 1200, I would assume, but I haven't installed one of those yet, so I guess we'll find out. Just like always, you line up the gold arrow with the notch in the socket. Now you want to make sure you drop these in really nice and square. I usually give them a little bit of a wiggle and make sure. And then on these big 2011 sockets, you have 2 pressure bars because of the size. You want to do this one first. That pushes on the back of the socket, down and clip under. And then go ahead and do the other one. There we installed a CPU. Let's do it again over here. So we're going to push down, and oops, got to do it the other way. So we're going to push down and push in, and down and in. So we need to get that one to stay up. Then we can open the socket. We are going to once again find the cut mark in the corner. We're going to sit it in there. We're going to close it. We're going to lock down the front half, lock down the back, and we've installed both our CPUs. Before I put on thermal paste in the heat sinks, I like to wipe down everything with a little bit of rubbing alcohol, just to kind of get all the oils and stuff off to make sure we get a good clean connection. Don't need very much. We're just going to, because these were already clean from shipping, so I'm just going to wipe them down and get the smudges off. Because we're getting a little bit off, so I mean, never hurts. Takes a lot less just to clean them once. Than it does to take it back apart because you're having thermal issues. We're going to wait a second for that to dry. For thermal paste, I just use good old-fashioned MX4. I've never found the need for anything more higher performing or exotic on a server. They move so much air and they cool so well. On 2011s, I draw a line right down the middle of each processor, and then I do a dot. Alright, we'll call that done. We're going to take our heatsink, and when we put these on, you're going to want to make sure that the fins are facing the direction of the fans so that air can get through them. And then just like when I take them off, I will start a screw in each corner. So that everything gets clamped down nice and even. And then it's tight, and then we'll just go ahead and we'll tighten it down on the diagonals. Just good and snug. There's no reason to crank out of these screws. Alright, let's do this on the other side. There we go. Go ahead and just snug all these now. Alright, CPU's installed. Let's put the RAM in. For the RAM, we are going to use all these blue slots. If you count them, there's 8. Each CPU has quad channel RAM, so that means we need, for best performance, we need 4 sticks per CPU, which is why I have 8. So we're going to go ahead and populate all these blue slots. We're going to push the clips back. Just going to push extras back. And we're going to go ahead and install this nice Cisco RAM that I got off eBay in my Gigabyte server. But at the end of the day, DDR4 is DDR4. And that's all that matters. So, there's that. Oops, wrong way. Push it in till you hear a nice click. we go. 8 sticks of RAM, 128 gig. Should be enough. Okay, let's install the graphics card next. So we're going to take our little low profile 3400. We are going to pull out the riser. And once again, I really like the cactus screws on these risers. We're going to pick her up. I like to look at these because sometimes if there's a power limit, it will explicitly say on, oops, that's the wrong one, I want this one, on the card. Dell in particular is notorious for having 25 watt PCIe slots, which is fine for network cards and HBAs and things like that, but it does not cut it for much else. So, just slotted it into my riser, and that's it. We'll put the screw back in, and we'll drop it in. There's another riser in here. They use this motherboard in several chassis, I can tell you that right now. But that's pretty common. And actually it's a good thing for everyone. Alright, let's get our NVMe drive installed. Oops. Hey, they gave me the screw but not the slot cover. That's good. If you remember from last time, with this slot, you know, that's a 4X, is it a 4X? That's an 8X slot, but we have a 1X and we have a 16X PCI pins on this riser. So to make sure I get the most performance out of my NVMe drive, I'm going to put it in the 16X slot because I'm going to assume that that's going to be full bandwidth. And I drop my screw into the server. Where'd you go? Come on. Oh, I hate it when I do that. Ah, there we go. It was hiding under the CPU cooler. Let's not repeat that and get this screw in. Okay, all installed, good to go. We will get this slotted back in. There we go. We'll tighten down that screw. And we'll tighten down this screw. The only thing left is to install my boot drive. These trays are pretty solid, and I have this nice Sabrent 3.5 to 2.5 inch adapter that works with hot swap base. So we'll sit that in the, ooh, this is toolless. Now I'm really impressed. Is it toolless? It's kind of toolless. Screws from the bottom, okay. Got my screws. They look like just your average hard drive hot swap base screw. Should do the trick. And it does. So let's get the other ones in here. Alright. Installing the sled. Slide it back in here. We'll slide it in here. Just a little bit so I can get that in there. I think that's okay. Alright. And that's it. We should have a functioning server. Let's plug her in and see. Let's plug it in. Let's plug it in and see if it works. I'm going to try out both power supplies for this initial run, just to make sure everything looks good, because I haven't booted this on yet at all. So I have this nifty 2 to 1, and we're going to plug it in. We're going to plug it into the kilowatt over here, so we can see what it pulls. I'm kind of hoping it's going to idle around 100 watts. Turns on, it's far from quiet, I'm sure, as you've noticed, and it's using 255 watts. Hopefully it'll quiet down here once it gets done posting. And we are leaving jet engine mode for a nice dull hum. Oops, crap. I forgot to put the air ducts back on, so let's do that real quick before I forget again. I have to say, actually, with the fans ramped down, this thing's not actually too bad as far as one-use servers go. Alright, we are waiting. Do we have any diagnostic on the front of this beast? Sys power. Well, everything's green. So, I guess we wait. Alright, we've been sitting here waiting for the chipset to initialize for enough time now. One power supply, two power supply. Let's see if there's a CMOS battery we can pop. Thought I saw one in here somewhere. Probably under something I installed. Aha! We're going to pop the CMOS battery out. Because God only knows what they had in here for CPUs before me. So we're going to pop the coin cell out. We are going to push the power button a couple times. And then put that back in. Put that back in. Plug in the power supplies again, and we're back to jet engines. Never doubt how much air solar fans move. Slots. NVMe FSC. Not looking the best. Let's drop it down to 1 sticker RAM per CPU. And see if it'll post. Dim, let's see. MPO. Look at this. P1G0. Oh well, let's just try it. Please wait for chipset. I think I have the RAM in the wrong slots. Let's put the RAM in the right slots. Actually, let's try and boot it up. Without the graphics card in it, maybe that's doing something stupid. B9, BA, B7, 9A, 78. Hey, it looks like it's posting. Yes? Yes? Woohoo! It's alive! Warning, BIOS setting load was default. Yes, it should be. I told you to do that. Hey! We have BIOS! Yay! So, yep, we have both of the systems, R13. BIOS isn't that old, from 2018, that's good. Server management, let's reset the BMC. Wow, this is fully Penguin Computing branded. Interesting. Oh well. As long as it boots up, I really don't. It'll serve its purpose. Sees the NVMe drive, that's a good thing. Sees 32 gig of RAM, which that's what's in it. Shows me the MAC addresses and all that kind of fun stuff. Let's save changes and exit, and then we're going to shut it down and we're going to put a couple more sticks of RAM in it and see what happens. It booted up off the drive. HT's turned off, but we got everything else that looks right. Well, since I know it's going to boot at least, let's shut it down. Put the rest of the RAM in it. Turn on hyperthreading because, yeah, but hyperthreading off kind of confirms it to me that this was in an HPC cluster at some point. Typically in an HPC world, they turn off hyperthreading. Yeah, I got a bad something. Well, let's do what I should have done and just go to 4 sticks. We'll let it boot up to the OS. We'll make sure that hyperthreading is now enabled, and we'll add 2 more RAM sticks. Alright, here we are at the OS again. '72 cores, 62 gig of RAM. Let's look. Yep, okay. Let's add 2 more sticks. I'm really hoping this is just a demo. And that we can easily nail down which one it is. Yep, 96. Alright. Now I have a decision to make. Do I swap out those last 2 DIMMs with these 2 and see if it still boots? And rule out the DIMMs, or do I rule out the channel? Let's rule out the DIMMs first. Postcode BD, I'm starting to think we have a bad DIMM. Which is honestly the ideal situation. We'll give it a minute here on BD, but that's what it was hanging me for. So, thinking that's some kind of a RAM error. Which, RAM hates me right now for some reason, so. Alright, I'm calling it. Eeny, meeny, miny, moe. think it'll boot with an odd number of DIMMs per channel. It will. Woo! Let's get it to the OS and verify this, but looks promising. Yes. 64 plus 16 would be 782? Yeah, that seems right. Well, let's put those two DIMMs in, see if it boots, and if that's the case, we'll do one last test with that DIMM, with this DIMM in the last slot, and if it doesn't boot again, well, we have our solution. And then I get to go through the fun of an eBay return. Well, I feel better with it being a DIMM though than a CPU. I'd much rather have to self-insure a $35 RAM stick than a $200 CPU, I can tell you that. $110 with rounding, that seems right. Alright, so let's have some fun. Let's try it one last time with this sticker RAM. Nope. Bad sticker RAM. We'll give it a minute, but I'm pretty sure that DIMM's bad. I'm calling it. Sticker RAM's bad. Hello from future me. I'm going to cut this one off here. I actually have footage of getting an OS installed and doing some benchmarks and some other things like that. But this video is getting a little bit long, but I wanted to show the entirety of the RAM troubleshooting because I think stuff like that is valuable. Anyway, thank you for watching if you stuck it out through this whole thing. If you let me know in the comments below if you liked the format. Would you prefer it if I cut out everything and just kind of did hops and kind of with little status updates, or did you like seeing everything I did over the 3 or 4 hours I troubleshooted this server in fast forward and fast motion with, you know, the little clips that would normally be there anyway, as I kind of talked about what I had found. Anyway, let me know. Thank you for watching.